Hello everyone. Those of you that were at practice last night will have been well aware that we did a new dance, in fact a new tradition. Well, new to me anyway, and I suspect new to a lot of other people. That is, we did Ilmington, Cuckoo's Nest. The dance seemed to be actually looked pretty good from where I was sitting. I quite like that, so that was cool. The actual tune though, it seemed really simple when you first encounter it, but as I found out last night, there's a bit more to it really, and it takes a little bit of thinking about before you actually nail it, particularly on melodeon. So I thought I'd make a little video to save you the pain of having to figure that out and giving you some clues of what you need to do with it really. Obviously Cuckoo's Nest is a very well known tune, and this is definitely a version of what you know, but it's not the version you know, I should think. It's different to any one I've ever heard. So yeah, I'll show you what to do. It's only sort of two parts, an A part and a B part. There's a lot of repetition in it, so there's not loads to learn, but what is there, yeah, you have to think about it a little bit. So let's get going. The first part, let's see, the A music. Actually, we'll do the first 4 bars of the A music. I'll just play what that sounds like normally and give you an idea of what it is. So yeah, that really. I'll do it again. That's the first 4 bars. It's all, as you see on the D row, it's all D major. Seems like it will be straightforward, and it kind of is, except there's a little gotcha in there. If I play through the notes slowly, so rather than use the proper rhythm, I'll just play the notes all in a line, and it may be a bit easier to follow, but yeah, that's what the notes are. The tricky bit there, and you might have spotted it, is there's a bit of fingering that you really have to do. This ends up going pretty fast, this, and if your fingers aren't in the right place, you're just going to get lost really. So what happened there, I'll do it again, and I'll stop at the tricky bit. So that's all fine. Now here's the bit where it changes. What you want to do, the next note we're going to play is that one, and your finger is already on that one, but don't use that finger because it will completely mess you up. What you need to do is use the 3rd finger and swap it there. So it's going to be, now swap. Then this one's available to then hit this button to get the C sharp on the pull. Then go back to this one on that same finger, and then swap back to your index finger to get the next note, the E, on the pull. There, you should have seen me do that swap and then swap back. It's kind of an obvious thing, but if you end up on this note pushing and the next note's this one pulling, you ain't got, it's not going to work. It's so, the timing is so quick, you're going to struggle to get that. So you need to figure it out beforehand to get into the right place to hit that. That's another thing. The way it was written down with a rhythm is something like, maybe that's how it should be, but maybe it's some, they didn't mean that, and maybe they meant. I think we'll have to wait and see how the dancers react to which of those rhythms is more preferable to them, because I don't really know. I was just going by what it said, but it might be that the other way is better. So yeah, that's the first 4 bars of the Cuckoo's Nest. kind of straightforward, but with that little finger thing going on. The next 4 bars are identical except for the very last note. So, and the only difference there is that instead of playing, normally you go, but then at the end of the next 4 bars you play that one, because that leads into the B part. And there's another fingering thing going on here. Your fingers will probably be in this position and you want to play that note pushing, so the obvious thing is to use the 4th finger when you're using that one. And that's going to mess you up because of what comes next. So what you need to do is when you hit that very last one of the A music, you want to move your 3rd finger onto it. And there, so if I play the whole A music and watch that at the end. So. There. The other thing I've not mentioned yet, but you probably figured out, is basses. There's probably a few things you could do, but what I'm actually doing there is about as basic as it's going to get. If you're pushing, I'm playing D major chords, these 2 here, and if I'm pulling, I'm not playing anything. And usually the pulling ones are those very small notes. So you're pushing on the main beats, which are in D major, and then that's it. I'll do it again. You could swap if you like. So the only chord I'm playing is D, and that's just on the push, and when I'm pulling I'm not doing anything there. And you could change it up and make it more complicated, but to my mind that's a good place to start, and I think that's fine. Yeah, the next bit we do is the B music, and yeah, the first 4 bars of this are probably the key part of the whole tune, at least they are to my ears anyway. This is where things get really interesting, and it's the bit where it really kind of makes this tune what it is. The only problem with that is that it's actually, yeah, a bit more involved than some things we do. So what's key here is that this 4 bars are based on a chord progression, and that chord progression to me is really important, and everything you need to do needs to be in sympathy with that, otherwise it's just not going to sound good at all. If there's several people playing and some people are doing it one way or another, it's going to sound yeah. So that chord progression, probably the first way to introduce that is to do it on the left hand only first. And so you've got 4 bars and you've got 4 chords, and the first of those chords is exactly the chord we've just been playing, so that's the D, those 2 together or whatever, on the push. So yeah, no problem there. The next bar is going to be the same 2 buttons on the pull, so that's A major chord. The next bar is a C major chord, which is these 2. So that's completely the opposite corner of where you started out. And we're going to play, you can play that in both directions, but because of what we do here, we need to play that on the pull. And then the 4th chord in the sequence is G major, which is just here. You play G major all the time, and that's obviously on the push. So that sounds like, if you do them together, D, A, C. You should be comfortable with doing that. So here we go. D. You can get funky with it if you like. It's doing that, and if you're not doing that, I mean, it ain't going to work. Obviously, if you don't play the basses, then you don't play the basses. But even then, what you do on the right hand needs to be sympathetic with that. And if you know what this is, then this guides you on the way to play the right hand easily, rather than fighting it and really working against the pushings and pulls, which is kind of easy to do on these. But then makes everything twice as hard as it needs to be. So that's that chord progression. D, A, C, oh, well, that's not right, where are we? D, A, C, G. There we go, now I'm getting myself confused. So what happens at the same time as that on the right hand? Well, what we've just done is we've finished the A music on that push A, the one we just suddenly moved our third finger onto, and that's the lead-in note to this. And then it goes. Easy enough. So that's the first bar. And then with the basses, well, just do something along the lines except for the last couple of notes here, and then you just leave them out. And so that's all the D, like we just said. Or however you want to do the rhythm here, it doesn't really matter, as long as it's those chords you're playing. Okay, that's the first bar. Next bar is going to be against this A major chord, as we just said. That one, so that's a nice chord against that. And so the notes here on this side to make that work is going to be so that's the C sharp that's there, and the A, which is on the inside row on the third button. You know that well because that's the one you start loads of tunes with on there. There is an A on this row, but that's a push A, and if you're pushing the A here, you can't be pulling the A's there, so you need to use that one. So, together. Now the next note's a B, and because it's right at the end of the bar, kind of doesn't matter too much if you come off the basses briefly for this one or not. If you do come off, then you could press the B, just stay on the inside row, or you could press this one over here and use that and carry on pulling. So, there, or if you like staying on one row, you've got to change on this regardless, but if you've got your A over here and you want to stay there, then use that one and just give it a little quick cheeky push, and that one. And then the next note, well, this is going to be against the C major chord. We've just been playing C sharps, but now it's C major. That's why we've definitely got to be on this inside row. So the notes here on this side are, and yeah, and then against the C. You can actually leave your C down, it goes in both ways, so you could leave it all through that if you wanted, but you have got to change your bellows. Like that. So, where are we at? And then lastly, we've got this G major chord, and we're totally on the inside again, just in G major. So that's that 4 bars. So okay, now that means we've still got 4 bars left. And is that going to be complicated? No, it's exactly the same as the first 4 bars we played right at the beginning, and so it just goes back to. And that's it. The way the music works, you have an introduction, which last night we were doing half of an A, so yeah, and then we had the full A, and then we had 2 full Bs, and then we went back to the A. So the chorus was 2 B, so it's like the bit we've just done twice, you know. Yeah, you get the idea. And then back to A. So I'll play it all. How about that? that's helpful. If that chord sequence is so important and making it match here, you can't just play this on one row. It needs the C sharp on one of the rows, and it needs a C natural on the other one, and you need to navigate around there. If you try and sort of fudge something else, it's going to make it more difficult. It's doing it so it matches up with the chords is always the way to go. Even if you're not playing the chords, still understanding what it would be if you were using them makes it easier always. So yeah, that's my tips for playing that one. Let me know how you get on with it really, and hopefully that was helpful. See you later. Cheers.